Hey guys, welcome to my shop. My name is Jay Bowen. I want to spend some time going over Altendorf F45 slider with you. When I was out looking for sliders, there wasn't a whole lot of information. There was the Canadian gentleman, I think Rivera Woodworks on a Felder K700S. I did buy that machine about a year, 2 years ago, a great machine, and after having that I really got into European sliders. And then I decided to move up from there to automated CNC rip fences and take a look at Altendorf, Martin, and some of the higher end Felder machines, maybe some SCM. So I did buy this Altendorf F45 late last year. Great machine, I love it. Maybe a few details I'll point out that could be improved, but a fantastic machine. I'm going to break out the content in a few different videos to do deep dives on the consoles and the displays and some of the features. This is just an introductory video. I'm just going to do an overview of the machine. Thank you. We're just going to power on the machine. It's 3-phase power. 7.5 horsepower motor on this unit. You can get a couple different sizes. Here's the display. The display comes in 3 different levels. This is the entry-level display. There's been a few times in the past I bought different displays different machinery with a lot of advanced options, and then only use the basic functions, or I get lost in all the menus. So on this one, I felt like I was really stepping into something big. Just give me the basics, that's all I needed. Well, the menu is so simple in this, it really took about 10-15 minutes to understand how it works. So looking at the display here, this one is the inch of the rip fence. This is how far it is between the fence and the blade. This one is the height of the blade itself. This is the angle, and this is the curve of the blade, and then we have the RPM setting for the motor. This one has a belt setting. You would go under the machine, change it manually. There are other options with this machine and other manufacturers where that's automatic. You could just dial in and on the display. So these are the main menu items from the home screen, but there's some more advanced items here. There's programming, going backwards. We'll go into the menu here, and then we have grooving and concealed cuts. That's really going to be basically dados. And what you could do is just set up the machine, even with a single blade, and it will calculate out dados for you. It knows the thickness of the blade that's here, and it'll keep moving the rip fence back up until you get the desired width there. So that's very neat. So going through the grooving concealed cut menu, the first dimension here is the dimension from the edge of the material to the groove itself, the width of the groove, then the depth of the groove. And to change any of these, you just hit the menu item, punch in a dimension, hit enter, go to your next one, or hit enter all your values and then hit enter, and the machine will be set up. And as you make a cut and a pass, you'll just press start, and it'll offset each time using the CNC rip fence. So very convenient, very easy to use. You could use a dado stack if you wanted to as well. I mean, certainly if you're going to do a lot of dados, that's what you're going to do. But if you just have a couple dados to do, or you just wanted to be very, very precise, this is a great way to do it. All right, now for the preset of the program menu, I'm going to click on Program here. And here it shows me which programs selected as I navigate through program up and down. This shows me the stop positions, the fence, and anything in red would indicate that it's not in that position right now. So if I were to navigate through these, and this is program number 1, and if I hit stop here, what's going to happen is we'll have the fence, the blade, everything is going to move to this position. And you can see here as we accomplish each task, we go green. And now we're ready to go. And if we go back to the main screen here, again, it's red because that's not the position we're in. We're coming from our program menu. Now we're at our main or home screen. And if I want to be at these dimensions here, I'll just press start. Very easy to use. Now to access the blade and the scoring blade, let me show you that part. So I want to move the slider forward. This sticker is going to come into view here, pull it back just a little bit. I'm going to push in on the lever and then just keep pushing the slider forward. And now I have access to the main blade and the scoring blade. So here we have a chart, depending on the diameter of the blade, is going to recommend a certain RPM here. Here we have the arriving knife, minimum distance between the blade, the rotation of the blade. So I'm going to open this up here. So main blade, of course, the scoring blade. Something I didn't know on these machines, and this may be very common for people familiar with sliders, is just scoring blade functionality and how many different features those have. So this one has it's an upgraded version. It's a Rapido blade here. So instead of using shims, there's actually two blades stacked together here. So it's like a dado set. And you want the width of this right here to cover the width of this blade, no more, no less. And then you want this axis, these to be in line with each other. But the upgraded versions of these will actually include, it'll be entirely electronic. So you could spend a couple $1,000s on a scoring blade setup to have features to control it from your panel instead of here inside the machine. Now something else I do like here is you have your full setup of tools. So if you wanted to change your blade here, just hex key, unlock the set screw, and bring it back. You're going to bring it back in, the set screw, done. We have the start and stop for the main motor, and then we also have the scoring blade here. And if you were to change a setting or multiple settings, you press start to have the fence move. So we'll just go ahead and change the fence over to say 30. We'll do this. We could change the height of or any of these here at the same time. But let's just say I just want to move that to 30. So I'll press start here. And so the CNC fence moves to 30 inches, and that's to the blade. I had a manual rip fence before where you'd have to walk around the machine, go over to that fence. It was digital, but it was still manual movement. It wasn't CNC movement. And so you ended up getting a lot of exercise going around the machine, around the slider, coming back around, adjusting. And even though it was digital, the repeatability, like if you changed or sharpened a blade here, it wasn't always 100%. It was once you had it dialed in, but it's something you had to come back to. This machine's fantastic. The overhead desk guard, pretty basic. It does come with a 45. This is a straight knife. The 45 needs to be wider inside to allow for the bevel of the blade. This is a single side bevel blade. You can do, or motor, you can get a dual angle, and that's the same thing with the scoring blade that's in there. This is your push stick that's right here. This is just an up-down push slide, an arm to lock it. I do have air clamps on this, and I can talk about this one a little bit later. But going back to display, a little bit of the setup. Come back over here on the rail. These do come in different lengths for the sliders. There's the slider length itself. There's the cast iron table. There's the outfeed fence. Then there's the right side where the rip fence is, and all those are different configuration options. When I went through configuring my machine, there's just a lot of options with these. So I'm not an expert on this. So, maybe talk to somebody in sales or whatever. I just really wanted something I could cut 8-foot sheets without any problems, do it quickly. And what I found is when I was using, I had a saw stop cabinet saw before, a fest tool, track saws. I was spending all my time setting all that equipment up. And that was pretty much a big drag. So I had a very limited amount of time to work and to be productive. So I want to make sure that all my time spent in here is cranking things out. A little bit back to the components on the slider. It's in a lock position now. Just a little lever here, and you can unlock. On the entry-level saw, like my K700, which is a very good slider, there's really just two positions, forward, all the way forward, all the way back. This one, like other saws, you can lock it anywhere. You have some remote settings that are there. The same thing, they're on the display so that you can start from here. So if you have a sheet that you're going to load up, you're not going to want to reach over and have a 4 foot sheet from left to right here. You're not going to stretch across and do that. That's another waste of time. So you're going to use this, come back over here. This is an optional piece. I forget what they call this, other than I'm going to call it a rear support. They do have very different variations of supports, but a very finely machined. It's just as an accessory. This probably weighs, I don't know, 50 pounds or something. Very well machined. Everything, even the saw, the accessories, they're just top notch. They're beautifully machined, very, very nice. To remove and replace, you're just going to flip the handle, bring it off the rails here, and detach. The reason why I like this is if I do have a long sheet, it tends to sag a little bit here on the bottom left corner, especially with melamine. Those sheets can be very heavy, and when you're pushing it across, it'd be nice to have everything perfectly flat, rear supported, and you can move this front and back. So this can be where you want it to for cuts. So if you're doing a long cut, you're doing a rip cut, or a cross cut, you can set it up where you want. But I also use this just as a place where I can, a bump stop here for moving with your backside, is you can just move the fence back and forth or with your hands. So it comes in handy other than just using it for support for materials. Moving across on the machine. This is a PQS machine. So the PQS is just the Altendorf literature, what they call in their models a parallelogram fence. Parallelogram fence means that this fence can angle here, and it'll be a digital readout, and I'll show you guys the display. But it's a digital readout. You unlock this, and this whole piece swivels, moves back and forth. You have the digital readings here, and it will also calculate for you, it'll compensate for the length. So if you put it in a different angle and you want it to be 10 inches, you want 10 inches at 45 degrees, 22.5 degrees, whatever it is, you just dial that in. The stops here are very nice. You still have your analog, but really the digital output, I think they call this a digital LD. So this machine's going to come with 2 flip stops. And there's a third function here by using this as your third piece, but with your flip stops here, I could just lock it in if I want this dimension. I could use the analog gauge if I want. I just come over here, dial it into a certain dimension, lock it in, and then just for a fine adjust, you can see that there's a gap here. I think the stroke on this would be maybe about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch, either way, that you can narrow it down. So I'll call that your fine tune, your fine adjust. These fence stops, so compared to like the machine that I was using before, these fence stops are they're fantastic. They're very well machined, very solid. I don't know if there are bearings in there or what, but there's very, very smooth movement. Very smooth movement across the whole fence here. It's very nice to work with. And something else that I like compared to the other machine that I had is instead of moving my fence, sometimes you may want your material on this side to make a cut. Sometimes you may want it to be on this side. It just, it's user preference. And maybe it's going to change depending on what you're cutting. In my case, I would have to, in the previous saw, I would have to detach this, remove some pins, pick it up, move it over the distance, put it back in, lock it back down. And this one, again, just as far as ease of use, it's already set up. So all you need to do is slide these supports to the front and the back, and you're ready to go. So a little bit ingenious there. Instead of moving the fence, you just move the support. It's very, very nice. Looking over the machine here, there's an option, I think, for a toolbox on one of these over here. That would have been kind of neat to get that. I think you put some